How would you define authority? Yeah.
Capacity to enforce.
The capacity to enforce. Well, wait a second. If I take a knife to you and say, give me your wallet, I have the capacity to enforce. What makes it authority versus simply the exercise of crude power? Not all crude power is authority. What makes something an authority relationship?
You said earlier that you have somehow been authorized to hold a position or to conduct a task. So you could be authorized by a vote, you could be authorized by a hiring, an employment situation.
So the term authorized gives us a little clue into how to define authority.
The will of the person, the perception that I am willingly giving you authority is the difference between enforcing and actual, real, authentic authority.
Okay, great.
But this perception
Yes.
may
It's
be,
consent, right?
may be incorrect. That's what we were discussing in the break. We had an adaptive challenge to accepting the new model. So we were actually discussing when people have leaders who have a lot of physical force. So I grow up in this environment where this person is basically the person who has authority, and everybody's accepted that.
Yes.
And got used to it, and
Yes.
we forgot where this person got the authority from. So somehow we perceive that we are willingly giving this person authority.
Wonderful insight. Yes. So you could say in a way that people could grow up in a situation, they could grow up in an environment, in a country or a community, where they just learn, they don't think about it, that this is the authority, this is how the world works, this person has authority, and they, by habit, they learn to defer to that person. And it's not so much a conscious and deliberate entrusting or empowering that person. It's not so much a conscious choice, I give you power. It's more like by habit.
Yeah.
Or it's just the water you swim in. You know, you don't know, you wouldn't even imagine any alternative.
Well, I think it's institutionalized structure. So, you know, it's a framework that we've been given.
Yes.
That's the rule.
Yes.
We accept it.
Yes.
And so therefore, that is the authority.
Yes.
Even if I don't vote for it or give consent, it is what has been dictated.
No,
Yes.
but on some level, you give up your personal power, and that's how the person acquires the authority.
Yes. Somehow you give them your power. You give
Yeah.
them, you give them
Personal
power.
yeah.
Yeah.
But still, even in that context, a person, authoritarian ruler, etc., still derives the power from the people, just not through active act of voting, but through their consent that they learn to accept. I mean, because they don't see any alternative and they don't think there is an alternative to that.
Yes. So in some ways, the authority of authorities, the power that authorities have, is it might be consciously and deliberately authorized, they're authorized by a very deliberate process, a thoughtful process, but it could be, as you're saying, that the authorization is more implicit, assumed, habitual, and almost unconscious. It's just how people grow up. That these are the authorities, I learned to play the rules by the game, this is what it means to be a good child, a good teenager, a good worker, a good citizen in this world that I live in which these are the authorities. But you're saying there is a tacit deference where on some level the source of the power is in the compliance of the people. And it could be habitual compliance, or it could be deliberate, voting, deliberate authorization. But in both cases, the power ultimately comes from those people who do the authorizing.
How is that different than the gun example? Because if we're saying it's based on consent, I mean, ultimately, they're holding the gun to your head, but you consent to give up whatever they're taking from you, right? So
To some extent, maybe like taxation.
just
You're also giving your money through taxes, but you're doing that consciously because you want to have healthcare, etc., whereas a person at gunpoint just taking the money without your
but
consent.
I'm still consenting to give it to them. It's
coercion.
But it's not
Right, I
voluntary,
mean-
right? Like
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, yeah, so good. So, what's the difference?